Welcome to Learn and Love Music. I'm Duane Hulbert. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to give you 10 things that piano teachers wish their students knew. Before we get started though, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We want to see you back again. So let's get started with what piano teachers wish their students knew. Number 1, listen to your piano teacher. In fact, it might even be important that you take notes during your piano lesson. Let's say you teach a student once a week. That's only 60 minutes of their week. How do they take those 60 minutes and find a way to practice every day of the week, remembering what we had talked about in that 1-hour lesson? Should you record the lesson? Yes, if you can. It's a little unwieldy to have a notepad and write things down. I think too much of the time students just try to take it in and they don't really listen to all the detail in lessons. Having a recording of the lesson would help them practice during the week. Number 2, we teachers want you to know that we can tell if you haven't practiced. I think some students are capable of fooling me because they're such great sight readers. I have quite a few students that are really, really good sight readers, and they can get away with it. But once you know what a student is capable of doing in a particular week, you know that maybe it's best for you to stretch them. If it's easy to play one piece per week, give them 2 pieces and see how far they can go with it. I remember when I was at the Aspen School of Music many years ago, my teacher was Mr. Lippman, Samuel Lippman, and he gave me a piece to play. It was a Chopin ballade, and I thought it was about a 7 or 8 minute piece. I thought I would have, maybe 3 or 4 weeks to play this, to get this piece ready for a lesson, and I played it in my first lesson, and he said, next week you're going to play it in a public master class. And that really made me think, am I capable of getting a piece ready in just 1 week? Well, I found out I was capable of doing that, but I had to put in a lot of practice in order to do that. I remember practicing, probably 5 or 6 hours a day in order to get ready for that class. Granted, a lot of my students have busy lives. They have academics they have to work on, and they have other schoolwork, maybe some sports involved. Playing the piano is not something that I would expect high school or junior high school students to do for 5 or 6 hours a day. But if they can put in 2 really good hours per day, they should be able to accomplish a lot in a week. I think it's very important that students learn how to count. And as my teacher, Janine Dowis, used to say, counting is not counting to yourself. Counting is counting aloud. She used to always have me count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, or 6-8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And notice when I'm counting, one of the things, it's natural for me to move my hands as if I'm a conductor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, not that I would expect students to all become conductors, but if you conduct, you get that forward motion going, and you get the musical line going, and the music makes a lot more sense. I find a lot of times students, when they start out taking lessons with me, they think that music is vertical. So 1, 2, 3, 4. But you really have to get that feeling going. My teacher always used to say, count aloud, but make sure you know where the strong beats are. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, or 6 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It gives it a lot of energy, and it gives musical direction, flow. It moves forward, never goes backwards, never hesitates. Counting is allowing your teacher to get inside your brain. If your brain is working, you should be able to feel the rhythm, feel the pulse, and make that a part of your performance. And when you practice, try not to hesitate. If you find yourself hesitating when you're practicing, stop, start over, go slower, but whatever you do, keep the musical flow going. This is what your brain wants to do, it's what your teacher wants you to do, but a lot of times you'll get stuck on a chord or a passage or something like that. Make sure you have that forward direction in all of your playing. A metronome is not going to be flexible, but counting, sometimes there will be moments when you want to have a little bit of retardando or something like that. Then you can pull back on the counting, but the counting never stops. It really gives us this musical flow. That's what's most important. Another thing I really want students to understand is how to use the pedal. The pedal is probably one of the most misunderstood parts of playing the piano. Obviously, we need to be able to have control of the foot, and my teacher used to talk about keeping the foot very strong, but most importantly, we need to learn how to connect chords by playing the pedal. So as I'm playing, if I just play some chords, I'll do some chords going upward, the C major chord. I have my foot down, I play a chord, play change, play change, play change, play change, play change. And a lot of times what happens, students will go pedal down, pedal down, pedal down. There's a gap. But in order to alleviate the gap, you have to pedal after you play the note. So if I play something like this, pedal, 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 pedal. If I played the notes exactly at the same time as pedaling, it would sound like this. Pedal has to be something that the pedal has to be a connector of the notes. And that means most of the time you pedal after you play a note, not at the same time. There's one exception though. If you do straight pedal, if you're doing something fast, short chords, that's called straight pedal. But if I did pedaling with long chords, change, 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 change. So much of the time I find that students try to change the pedal at the same time or really close to the note, and that doesn't work so well because it doesn't give you a sense of a continuous flow of the music. Number 5, I want my piano students to know how to put their hands on the piano. A lot of times when you use your hands, you have the thumb here and the fingers here. But what you realize is that when you're playing the piano, the best way to play the piano is to have the fingers forward and the thumb back. Because when you move your fingers are going like this, and then move your thumb, you're going like that. If your thumb goes too far forward, then suddenly your technique of your fingers fails, and the thumb gets involved in all the activity. This thumb-like play, or thumminess in playing, however you want to describe it, doesn't work well for the piano. Mostly because these are long fingers, and this is a very short finger. So this finger, the thumb, needs to be quite a ways back from the index finger in order to play very, very fast and very cleanly. Number 6, we piano teachers want our students to think ahead. It's a little bit like reading a book. If you're a good reader, you look at the words on the page and you're reading ahead. You're reading maybe a word or two ahead. And it's the same thing with playing the piano. You need to be thinking ahead of when you play a note. And the other thing is, if let's say you're practicing and you miss something, you play a wrong note, it's better to keep on playing and then get to the end of a phrase, then go back and fix the wrong note. If you constantly are stopping to fix a wrong note, that becomes a habit. So every time you get a little bit of panic in your system, you'll find that you'll suddenly be jolted and just stop. Musical flow has to always go forward, 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 forward. Never do we look back on what we just played. And I think I'd mentioned that before as well. So think of that. Think of always being a little bit ahead. It's a little bit like a conductor. A conductor, when they conduct an orchestra, they can't be following the orchestra. They have to be leading the orchestra. So in a sense, your brain has to be leading your fingers, not the other way around. So really get that sense of know where you're going with the music, keep going forward. If you have to stop, just stop, but don't try to, what is the word? Try not to hesitate often when you're playing through a piece. And of course, slow practicing helps too. It would be better for you to practice a piece slowly and steady rather than trying to play a piece or practice a piece too fast. Fast playing and out of control playing does not help your the learning process at all. Here's another thing that I would like my students to know. Practice slowly. I have to admit, I'm a very fast reader and I can play things a lot of times up to tempo if it's not too difficult a piece. Slow practice is something that I actually haven't done that much in my life, but I found that when I am confronted by a really difficult piece, I have to slow it down and really practice slowly. Many years ago, I entered the International Contemporary Music Competition at Carnegie Hall, and some of the pieces were very, very difficult. And I had to practice so slowly in order to get all the notes correct. Now, it's not quite the same as playing a Beethoven sonata or a Chopin etude or any kind of other piece, because the music was very dense and very thick, and you had to practice it slowly. But I think it was a good lesson for me to learn how to tackle pieces that are very difficult. Obviously, you have to go at your own pace, but don't ever go faster than you can handle with tempo. Number 8, we piano teachers want our students to know to keep their tempos consistent. Don't get into the habit of playing the easy parts fast and the fast parts slowly. The tempo is what guides you, and make sure you stay with that tempo marking regardless of how many notes you have in front of you. Number 9, this is one of my favorite. We want our students to know how to start in the middle of the piece. So many times I've found that students, the only way they practice is just to go from the beginning to the end. That's not good practicing. Start from the beginning, start from the middle of the piece, start with 75% through the piece, start in different places. This will really help your ability to read music. It's like reading a book. You can't just pick up a book and only start at the first chapter or the first page. If you're able to do this, you'll find that you'll be a better sight reader. Don't just keep playing the same things over and over again, but also it's important to start any place in the music, because what if you have a memory slip in performance? If you've practiced it so that you can start anywhere, you can pick up on where you left off or where you had a little problem and just jump right back in. If you're always stopping, guess what happens? When you get into a nervous situation in performance and you stop because you've been stopping and you're practicing, well, you're going to be stopping in your performances as well. Keep the flow going. Always keep the music moving forward, never stopping. And one last thing that I want to express to all of you is that music should be joyful. If you put in the long hours of practicing, going to lessons, learning pieces, enjoy it. Just have a great time with it. And look back on your accomplishment. In other words, if you start in on a new piece, it's very difficult, after you've mastered that piece, just imagine where you were when you started. And this progress that goes from the beginning of learning a piece to the point when you perfected a piece or you're ready for performance, that's the joy. You've done it. You've been able to accomplish something that is just gives you that joy. Music is uplifting. It's joyful. It's exciting. And you have to enjoy every single minute of it, whether you're practicing or you're taking a lesson or you're listening to music or learning new music. Revel in it. Just really embrace it and make it a part of your life. I've made it a part of my life and I've never regretted it. Thanks for watching. I'm Duane Hulbert. We'll see you next time on Learn and Love Music.